Omar, tell me about the book that you've published. It's an ebook now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what's it called?
So it's called Save, Invest, Live.
Okay.
And it's a short book. It begins with how you can effectively save better, how you can prioritize your spending, and how you can monitor your expenses. And then it moves on to investing.
Right.
And then once you've escaped debt, and you're starting to build a surplus and a war chest, how to invest that money and grow it so that it outpaces inflation and grows over time.
Right.
And so it's targeted towards beginners.
Yeah.
You don't require,
or anyone earning money,
anyone that is interested in growing their money, and it's targeted for them. You don't need any prior financial knowledge, or it's not overly technical.
Because this is an understanding for anyone can apply to their business, to their life right now with what they're doing with the monies. Are they doing the best thing with their monies, and are they thinking more long term in investing their monies that they've retained from that? Now it's an ebook, so anyone with a smartphone can read it once they download it. How do they get hold of that book?
So if you go into Amazon and type Save, Invest, Live, you'll find it. You can have a look at the reviews, you can download the introduction and get a feel of it.
Right.
And if you can also go to Save, Invest, Live on Facebook. It's a Facebook page.
Right.
And on Twitter. And I usually post financial advice, bits of knowledge and wisdom. So things that are useful, that will be of value to anyone. So you can follow those pages. And my name is Omar Selim, and my writing name is Omar S. Faris.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where you can find it, and you can stay in touch. Any updates, any second editions, or other books, you'll be able to see it through Facebook and Twitter.
Well, most people have got a Facebook account on their own, and maybe Instagram and things like that will come on board as well. So what's amazing about your journey is because you went down the pathway of getting a degree. And thinking the world is your oyster, as you were saying in your book, and you say, now I've made it, but the market was down and the whole country was down on it. And people with degrees weren't getting jobs. And then you had a degree not related to where you want to be. It didn't serve you any purpose. You can tell I've read some of your work because it made sense, and I've seen a lot of people who have degrees and never do anything with it. They end up doing something quite simple, a basic job in retail. And you said in your book that's where you went to start with. You did something that was, I'm not using the right term, below you, but it wasn't applicable to your learning ability.
Yeah. Anytime someone with a degree ends up working in a role that doesn't require a degree, you're already kind of you've already made a loss on your investment in the degree.
Well, yes, especially if you've had to pay for it as well. And that's the biggest thing. And then probably after that it becomes a lack of confidence. And I think reading your book, that's what changed, because you said, I'm not just going to sit back and take my fate, I'm going to do something about it. And you just moved yourself forward. And were you always happy about the financial side? Because to me it was quite complicated reading parts of your book. Wow, what does that mean? It was a new technology, it was a new something in IT I've not read.
I'd be happy to break it down and simplify it more, because I love doing that. I was interested in investing and learning about growing money, and learning about the different asset classes, and the person who inspired me initially was Warren Buffett.
Yes, I saw that quote in your book. Yes.
And what I really liked about Warren Buffett is his down to earthiness.
Yes.
His passion for living and life and thirst, for that. He exuded it very, very clearly.
Yes.
And the way he described investing was very logical, very rational. And it was a mixture of art and science, and seemed like a very exciting thing. Because when you think of investing, you can invest in pretty much anything. You can invest in any country, in any asset, in any industry, regardless of the size of the company or the size of the investment. So it is a world with limitless opportunities, and I got hooked onto that, and it made sense for me to go and study business and try and get a job in investment management, and that's what kind of led me down that path.
And it's something that you got involved in, you did it for yourself, from what I could work out from, and then others got keen on your returns and how you were doing it, and it almost drew other people into what you were planning investing into.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, I found out that when I was discussing investments with my friends, with my family, and things like that, I assumed that they would understand what I was talking about, and that what I was talking about was common sense and common knowledge. But then I started realizing that I've got this specialist kind of knowledge that I had underestimated, and I thought just everyone knew, and it was common sense. And that's when people started trusting me with their investments and encouraging me to write the book, for example. And
so you almost became like a fund manager, if that's the right term to use. And your portfolio increased, and the returns were good, and therefore people said, well, he sounds like he knows what he's doing, so can I come on board with you?
And I
think that confidence was there, wasn't it?
And I think what was very crucial was the fact that I simplified things. I explained it clearly and transparently, and they liked that. They that developed trust. And I think that was one of the biggest selling factors.
And do you still do that now, or is that part and parcel of what you've already said? Does that roll, or do you have different directions in life you want to go now? I mean,
well, I don't do it professionally, I still do it. But it's not like I'm taking on new clients or taking on new people. I still manage money for people that I know, so friends and family, and it's become like an automated process now, because I manage their investments very similar to the way I manage my own investments. So I find it enjoyable, easy, and beneficial for them. And most importantly is I've aligned my well-being with theirs, because I invest their money the same way alongside my own money. And one of the biggest problems with the financial services sector is there's a writer and philosopher called Nassim Taleb, and he coined the phrase "skin in the game." So a lot of these banks and money managers and investment managers, they invest people's money, and they, for instance, get a management fee every year. And that's regardless of whether they've lost money or made money. So they don't have skin in the game. They're not, they're not on the boat.
They don't have to worry about it. If they make a bad investment, they're still getting paid.
There's no disincentive for them to fail. No. They win otherwise, either way.
It's a loaded dice.
So I think that's one of the biggest problems with the financial services industry, and also you could include chief executives.
In getting paid.
Whether the
millions or whatever they're doing, they're still getting big bonuses, even if it makes a loss or something.
Exactly.
Even if they rationalise the company, or whatever term they want to use for it, they are still getting the good salaries. Because once you start getting a company that's floated, you've got to show that you're making money all the time, and there's a lot of way of splitting the company up, so you don't get a domino effect right across them, but they're still winning at the same time, aren't they?
It's very difficult to believe, to be honest, because you think. So I was born in Egypt, and Egypt is very different to the UK. It's the not being a democracy. You can really see the contrast between a democracy and a dictatorship or a non-democracy. And I find it very unbelievable what goes on in companies in the UK, for example, in the US, because it's not...
They're not transparent, are they?
They're not transparent.
And they give a portfolio. This is my company creed or my company disciplines. This is the rules we live by. But that's for you to read. But that's not what we do.
Because I think modern dictatorships and modern non-democracies operate. Not in an obvious. So they will, for example, imprison the opposition. They will put a lid on freedom of speech. But they'll do it in a way where it appears legal. So they'll do it through creating a crony law where a crony parliament votes for it.
Absolutely.
So this happens in the companies as well, in the UK and in the US, because you've got a chief executive and you've got a board of directors, and the board of directors it's meant to be a democratic institution, and they vote on decisions, and they are ultimately responsible. They act as custodians, as stewards for the shareholders in the companies. But then you look at the decisions of these directors and how they're sort of they support the chief executive.
They're almost like yes men.
At the expense,
and you're not allowed to say something outside of that wouldn't benefit the company. So therefore, I'm not saying it's like mafia type thing, but it's very much like you are freedom of speech, but you're part of our team. Don't make a mistake. Otherwise, you're out. And it does seem very closed shop, and it's if you haven't got the special handshake, you're not going anywhere. And you're part of that elite club. They're paying them well, lots of money, so they become very much split or supporters of the CEO, and don't really make true decisions. They're based upon their requirements, not the requirements of the shareholders.
And I think one clear indicator that could highlight this problem is if you compare over time, for example, the ratio between the CEO's salary and the lowest employee's salary.
Absolutely.
And that's been growing, that divergence has been growing. And so what I don't understand is how can a board vote for the CEO to have an increase in his bonus or her bonus when the company makes a loss, for example.
That's right.
How could they, for example, vote to cut pension contributions or dividends to shareholders, yet vote for an increase in bonus?
And you see it in local governments, politics, they say they want, and they do, they cut the pension rate, yet they get a golden handshake and their pension goes up.
Like in the case of Carrie Lynn.
So it is not true business, and what you're highlighting is that you're taking, I suppose, the view of people on the street. You're giving them a fair shot at the market and being honest with them, where the others have got a hidden agenda. And it's sad to see that.
And why I say it's unbelievable that it's happening in the UK because in a free country, in a developed country, you kind of trust the institution. So, for example, you trust the education system. You trust the NHS system to some extent. If you call the police for something, you're not going to expect them to ask for a payout.
No.
And so you trust most institutions in society. But then when it comes to these private corporations and the way they are governed, it's like they operate as if they existed 100 years ago on an old-fashioned model. So that's why it's stunning, to be honest.
It is sad to see that, because clearly, once you float a company, you have to show that you're profitable all the time, and there's several ways of playing with numbers. As we were saying earlier on, split the companies up into different leaderships, partnerships. So if one goes down, the rest don't fall. It's like changing currency. It's not having a euro and going back to standard. So one falls, the euro doesn't fall down all the way across Europe, and it's just protecting themselves. And it's sad to see that. But do you see other people operating like you at all, or are they all sort of getting towards the large investment bankers, and not being skinned, or whatever term you were using? If they're being paid big salaries, they're not motivated. They're motivated to make money for themselves, but maybe at the detriment of the people who are investing.
I would say I was a black sheep, and I still remain a black sheep in terms of my friends and my contacts and my professional colleagues. I worked in a big accounting and consulting firm, and the way it's set up from the top down, it incentivizes you to have a very short term view. So, for example, you work on a project. And it's, how can I describe it? You're kind of detached from the client and from the impacts on society and from society. You're just focusing on getting this done.
Almost at any cost.
Exactly.
And it's because, I suppose, the financial reporting is on a monthly basis anyway, and then you obviously your fiscal year coming in with that as well. And what they want to show every month, we're making money, but there's losses being made. But in their own investments, they're making it to the detriment of the people investing into that. And I find that sad, but I suppose that happens a lot.
Because the most junior analyst is being pressured by the senior, and the senior is getting pressured by the VP and the senior manager and the manager, and you just want to sell as many products, as many services as possible, and then finish it off according to like a checklist.
Absolutely. And then, so it's almost like sales, isn't it? Because they're getting bigger cuts. If you get that little bit of reward from doing it, they're getting that, and it just builds up. So the pressure's on for them to invest in themselves rather than in the interest of the people who are investing.
Yeah, yeah. And let me give you a clearer example.
Yeah.
Because with my example, it's services, and
yeah.
An easier example would be a mortgage, an employee at a bank that sells mortgages.
Yes.
And this is part of the cause of the financial crisis in 2008, which was people were being sold mortgages that they clearly couldn't afford. People were being sold.
And you said have no more than 2 levels of salary up as borrowing.
Yeah.
And I can remember they were doing it 3.75 and all the rest and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And they were selling endowment policies that never went to fruition. So they did the lifetime of their mortgage, and then they still own money.
Yeah.
So that money that they invested in, hopefully to pay off, wasn't enough to pay off because someone was playing with that money.
Yeah. And the worst case scenario is clear to just see. If someone can't afford their mortgage payments, they get kicked out of that property.
Yeah.
So the person selling the mortgage wasn't thinking of the client. They were thinking.
Well, they weren't told to. Well, they were instructed to sell that because that's what they've got to sell
to meet the targets.
Even if it wasn't good for the person in the long term.
Yeah.
Very much as you see today, when you see all these companies on television advertising short loans, and you look at the investment, there's 1,275. You what? That percentage, and people think those short-term loans are doing them good, but the money they're paying back is atrocious.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a load of dice again, isn't it, really, with that? And I think when that crash was happening, I was involved with some of the financial institutions, and there was something like about 2,000 letters going out a week for repossessions. And that was every week. And all I know is that the printers couldn't even cope with it. They had high-speed printers. They were going down because they were constantly in use.
Yeah, yeah.
So that deficit and what was happening with the housing and people's livelihoods was terrible.
Yeah, but you see, that sale was reported in a historical financial
yes.
statement. So you know, it's like they just care about the
it's the short term, isn't it? It's a month or it's 6 weeks because they've got to do that financial reporting because basically that company it's got to show a profit, and if it doesn't show a profit, the investors will move their money somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you play with the figures, or you play with those persons' money to show that we made this much this month and so forth. Just really bad. So would you say now you're out of that market now, although you still do it? Where's your focus now? What do you want to do in the next 5 years? What's your 5-year plan?
So at the moment, I left my job last year, and I did some travelling, and I came back here to try and figure out what I would like to do next.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the more I applied to the financial services industry, the more that I saw, you know, that
it wasn't fair.
This problem, that it wasn't fair. That you were dealing with big companies that were getting bigger. They were swallowing up the competition.
Yeah.
And it was starting to turn into an oligopoly of where the focus wasn't on the client. The focus wasn't on doing a good job. Rather, the focus was on getting more money. People to invest more money. And investing more in the marketing and the PR of
absolutely.
The company.
Look how good we are, and it's all short-term investment for them, but that they were selling a long-term investment that wasn't working.
Yeah. So what I'm searching for at the moment is for independence. I'd like to work if I was to work as a professional financial wealth manager or an investment manager. I'd like to work to ensure that the company I'm working for is independent. That they focus on the client and that there aren't any outside forces really directing.
Yes, and controlling. So, well, you can't do that. You're upsetting our market. You have to push you back. So, is that part of your pathway now? You want? Would you open up your own company? And develop it? Then you're in control of it.
Yeah. That's something. It's either expanding on what I've done already and what I know, and I've also started learning and advising friends and family about mortgages, power of attorney, planning for their will and retirement and things like that. And I've gained, further knowledge and insight into this. So I could move in the direction of creating my own financial advisory firm that covers pensions, investment management, mortgage advisory.
Good. And you can train your people to have a boilerplate of what you're using, and not just the short-term bit. Because obviously funds and shares and stocks go up and down. There is problems with that, but you're being honest with them. But because you're being fair with them, you win their confidence, and there's no hidden agendas with what you do.
Yeah, yeah. And Adrian, I mean, the problem, what I would like to provide a service for the majority of people. The problem with financial institutions right now, if you go to any of their websites, or if you call them, you'll find that it's a daunting process.
Yes.
It's you could see that it's targeted to the ultra rich.
Yes.
And it explicitly states that. So
yeah.
So most private banks or most wealth managers would require a minimum net worth or a minimum investable amount of, say, 250,000 or 500,000.
Yeah.
And most people can't afford that.
No, you're quite right on that. It is planned for the super rich, because no one's going to come up with that sort of money if they're living hand to mouth, or from, you say, one salary check to another. You know, obviously what they have to do is then look at why they're spending and how they're spending, how they can save.
Yeah.
And do something that they don't be sit in a deficit all the time.
Yeah.
And then start to invest, and it would be not as big a returns from you for you as your company, but if more people that were low income came to you and said, I've got £500 to invest or something like that, or even the worst, I don't know, £300 or £200.
Yeah.
There's so many out there that if they could see the returns that you would give them, that, then I think your customer base would just be exponential. And that's winning that trust, and that's what, you're quite right, the big institutions don't. They want fat sons for fat cats. And clearly you're the other way around. You're saying the man on the ground, there's more men on the ground as families on the ground in low income. You could invest small amounts and still get hopefully a guaranteed return in it on long term.
Yeah. Because what has shaped my my philosophy is a shift in society. So if you look at, for example, historically speaking, when you look at modern history, sort of the 50s and the 60s, the way society worked was you worked for either a public institution or a private company, and they had the responsibility to look after your future once you stopped working.
Yeah.
And that was huge.
Yes.
And that's what is known as a defined benefit pension. So you had to turn up to work, make sure you fulfilled your duty.
Yeah.
You worked hard. You did your job.
You know, rest assured, you got money when you retired and like that. But we know what's happened with the pension funds. They played with them, messed with them, lost the money, and there's people that have worked all those years that have no pension.
Yeah.
Apart from maybe a state pension if they're lucky.
Yeah. Even worse than that, they've cancelled that system of pension.
Right.
They've cancelled it. So before, the companies assumed the responsibility of your retirement.
Yes.
And that was called the defined benefit.
Right.
Now they've changed it, and most companies now have what is called the defined contribution. And what that says is it is up to you now. The burden is on you, out of your salary, to plan for your pension and your retirement. What we can help you with is to contribute along with your contributions every month.
But the responsibility is of you, so if it goes wrong, it's your problem, not ours. We're not picking up the tab at the end.
Yeah, plus whereas before, you had your salary and you could consume with that salary in the present and perhaps save, for just to have the comfort of having your savings to fall back on. Yeah. But you knew once you hit the retirement age of 60 or 55 that the company had, alongside your salary, had been investing in a pension fund for you. Now that is not the case. No. Now the company says, how much would you like to contribute in a pension fund?
Right, yes.
And you have to take from that salary and say, if it's £200 a month, they're just going to match it with £200 a month.
Yeah.
And that's it. You have to decide on how to invest it or where to invest it, or they may suggest some fund managers for you, but you have to take
make that ultimate
from
decision.
Your own money, every month from your salary, and manage current consumption as well, and savings, and retirement. And what happens if you don't continue with that company, or if something happens, then they stop contributing.
Yes. So you get lots of tiny little, and it's happened for me in some of my work, 6 or 7 companies, so many 2 years to 3 years, and if you do some work in consultancy, once it's done, they go, thank you very much, bye-bye.
Yeah.
And so that closes that one down. You start again somewhere else, and that closes it down. And they're not worth anything at the end of the day, because there's no real investment over a year or 2 years or whatever it happens to be.
So that great shift in the way pensions worked and in the way employment worked is what created my my philosophy, because now I think it's a more precarious world.
Absolutely.
For the employed person, for the employee.
Yes, because everyone assumed that the company had your best interest in. I mean, I suppose only the places, and I work with some people that have retired, and they were with like councils and government departments. Well, they've been okay, but it's the ones now, probably from 10 or 20 years ago, have not been looked after, and they're just going to fall out the end of the system with nothing.
Yeah.
And you've got an expertise, but the man on the street hasn't got. They just a pension. Well, that's the money. And you tell me to go to that one, or I'll put it in there. And they put it in there. I ain't got a clue what's doing. They wait 50 years to get something, and it was the wrong investment.
Yeah. Because let's go through it step by step. What you get now, you've got the state pension.
Yeah.
And that depends on your employment. So you'll get the maximum state pension if your salary was high on average, and that you contributed, and therefore you contributed high national insurance contribution.
Yes.
And that way you'll get the maximum state pension,
yes,
which is currently at £600 a month.
Right.
That's the most you can get.
Right.
And it's dependent on the government and politicians, because they can vote to change that. They can vote to eliminate it altogether.
Yes.
Because that comes out of the public
the public purse,
exactly.
And they want it for something else. Well, of course they want it for their pensions and everything else that goes with it.
Yeah.
There.
So you've got 600 maximum you can get from the state, and that's it.
Yeah.
In terms of pension, so you see the gap. So if you set yourself an accurate forecast of what your expenses are going to be. If you're retiring in 10 years. Yeah. And for most people, I would say it would be between, maybe if you're not paying your mortgage, assuming you've paid off your mortgage, you're going to need maybe between 1,500 and maybe 4,000 if you'd like to travel a bit, and if you'd like to work on some things and enjoy your life.
Yes.
So if you're going to get 600 from the government, which is at risk, because it could change.
Where's the rest?
You see the importance of investing and saving now, because it's up to you now to build on that 600 to reach
a sustainable wage, so you don't go into deficit as soon as you retire.
Exactly. And there's an even scarier thing: inflation.
Yes.
You see, the Bank of England targets a 2% inflation rate. So the Bank of England wants things to get more expensive. But only at 2%, and they can't control that perfectly. No. So sometimes, in the 80s, for example, and the late 70s, you had massive rates of inflation.
Yes.
So it's all very well to say in 10 years' time I will need £3,000.
But it could be double if the inflation doesn't go the way it should do. Yeah. So you're quite right. It is a scary thing, and most people don't look at it until they're almost at retirement, and by then it's too late. Well, I think you've got a task in your hand with getting this sorted out, or starting a company, because I think with this level of understanding, it's a wake-up call for so many people that suddenly go, I've not even thought about it. And then when you do the sums, you realise that you're going to be worse off, so maybe you're going to have to go out to work. And that's why, I mean, even the retirement age just gets lifted all the time. So they spend too much money, and it goes from 60 to 65, 65 to 67. Crazy.
But I think there's hope, and there's opportunity as well. If you like the vast masses of people are in Britain are employed, and you've got the skills, you've got the experience and qualifications where you see yourself remaining employed for the foreseeable future. Yes. You can do quite a lot.
Yes. And the first part that you said in the first part of your book is look at what you're spending, look at your money in, your income and expenditure, and see what you're paying out and why you're paying that much. Well, I've always paid that. And we chatted earlier on about sort of different companies' loyalty is not loyalty. Well, they won't bother us because they're probably reasonably comfortable, so they're not going to query another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 pound. So we'll get new people coming in at a lower rate, and those ones won't say anything. They're used to paying that money. It's almost, do they know how many direct debits they're paying out, and what they're paying out on. But once you rationalise that and you look at it and you go, well, actually I could get that cheaper, and you said the power of the internet, and obviously many sites that compare what the market is doing, then look at it. And even you find, I was talking about hotels, you get this hotel, we've looked at all the rates, but there's a lot of hotels now that you phone directly, and one we stayed in, probably in Aldershot, which is immaterial, when I phoned them directly, we also got all the sauna facilities that night, and all the jacuzzi and that free, because we went direct and we still got a better rate. So it doesn't, you don't assume because the internet is comparing all the market and this company says we've done the analysis for you, you just have to pay that amount. Why not go and phone them up direct? Why not have a voice and speak to another voice if you can find another voice? And do it that way.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much effort. It doesn't take much time.
No.
Because most people, it seems like they're coasting.
Yes.
I compare it to the way people view death.
Yes.
It's like people don't want to think about it. They push it.
Push it away.
Back. Yeah, yes. Push it away. They don't want to think of it. They don't want to.
It's too frightening for them.
Reality. Yeah. I think it's the same with their financial lives as well. People don't like thinking about what
the future holds. It's now, isn't it? If I can get through 1 month and scrape through and have a little bit on my cards, then I'm doing okay, and I've got the nicest car on the drive, and and I've got several holidays a year, and I can pay that off in the year, and sometimes I find different cultures that have a different perspective. I found a lot with Americans when we've been on holiday. They're spending as much as we're spending in 2 weeks, or even more, on 1 week, and it's all loaded on the cards. The credit card is literally their flexible friend, and they're spending on that and then spending the rest of the year paying that off to the next holiday. And I couldn't imagine living like that. How can you enjoy a holiday overspending, over budgeting on what you're doing? How can you relax? But they've got into a culture of doing that. And I was amazed that this was happening time and time again. But it certainly is a wake-up call for that. So you're going to be very busy, I think, as you go forward, if you get into that investment. Do you think this is what you're going to do in the future? Is this part of what you really... I know it's beside you at the moment, and you may turn it on full stream. But where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? Is it on this particular pathway?
I think it will always be a part of my life. So I currently manage investments on people's behalf. I always keep track with the market. I always try and educate myself on financial products, personal finance issues, and things like that. I think it will definitely be a part of my life. The biggest part of your life going forward. That depends. It could be that I have just a small side business or a side income that comes from this and services from this, or I could dedicate myself fully and open a whether it's an online business where you get a user-friendly, easy-to-understand service that helps you manage your savings for retirement, or if I open an office and become a financial advisor, it could be that, or it could be just perhaps online coaching or managing investments, but expanding the number of people that I manage investments for, because I am getting quite a lot of demand, to be honest, from friends of family, friends of friends.
And it's all by word of mouth. He's doing a good job, can I be part of it? And once they got your confidence, and then they're probably going to invest larger sums than they would do cautiously with an investment organisation they don't really know about. So it could work in your benefit because they trust you. Say, well, I was only going to give you X amount, but I'm going to give you X and Y because I feel that you're doing the right sort of thing. And you're selling it on the trust value and the knowledge that you have. I mean, do you ever switch that off? Do you on holiday, or you keep checking the markets every day? And
I'm guilty of that.
That's okay. But you enjoy the work, though, don't you? You're not one of these that just do it and you've got your head down. I can see you really enjoy it because you understand it. Is there any members of your family in the same? Did you get that from anyone else?
No.
So they've not been part of your development, but it's an instinct within you, and obviously, I was going to say a gift, but an understanding that you have, because you've done your education in it, so you understand that market, and then you've explored that market and suddenly found, well, they're doing it for themselves. And rather go along and fit into that sort of part of that market where it's all for you, short-term investment, so you make the monies every month, but that doesn't matter in the long-term investment, but then I won't be around with it when it falls out. And I'm just part of the cog, so don't blame me, it's the investment. But you're actually taking it on board and you're actually saying, your market is people on the lower average salaries maybe, I'm guessing. I'm not saying you ignore the large ones.
Not
but
solely, yeah.
No, but it will also open the door for people who wouldn't invest.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's obviously got to be smaller increments, smaller monies.
Yeah.
And because you're willing to talk about it and explain what the market's all about, and I found it very clear. I mean, I didn't fully understand it because I've only sort of read it once. And I go, yeah, that makes sense, but I need to go and understand that part of it and go and research myself so that data makes sense to me. But the first, few chapters talking about why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you overspending your money? Why are you putting too much on credit cards? Why don't you look at what you're doing? What's your direct debits doing? And can you get that cheaper? And once people, they don't want to touch it because they don't want to know about it. Well, it's running, so that's okay. I won't touch it because it may break.
Exactly. I just wanted to comment on an earlier point. A skill that I have, or one of my strengths, is that I'm able to detach or insulate myself emotionally from market data. So although I do enjoy checking,
yes,
the markets, and it's just because I'm curious about how
well, you've also got to see what the trends are doing, haven't you? To
exactly.
have a focus on it, but then you make your own analysis beyond that, and you're not led by what they're doing.
Precisely. So it's not like I'm checking them because I want to jump and make a trade, and I think that's very important. It's very important to have a strategy, a long-term strategy. Have confidence in your strategy, and not be swayed by short-term movements in prices. Because
this is where a lot of people, all the money, I don't understand the market, but people see it, either drop and they invest a lot of money into it, and there's a slight hit on it. Oh no, they pull all their money out, and it's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, and suddenly those funds are not popular anymore because they're going up and down. So you either have to take a chance and tie up your money for a period of time, 10, 20 years, whatever it happens to be. But you've got to tie it up in the right place, otherwise it's just going to sit there and do nothing. And we know in the last few years, even if you had a building society account, the interest you got was really quite good. You could put a deposit on a holiday. You can't put a deposit on a meal with something that comes off these now these days. It's ridiculous. If you do your tax returns, this is how much investment. You go 0.1, 0.40, and it's ridiculous. So they've obviously withdrawn that money. They're getting it themselves, I guess, and just preventing you. There's no real savings accounts as in such, unless you put a lot of money in 1 to 2k in every month. Then they'll increment your salary to your savings up to 5% if you're lucky.
Because the Bank of England interest rate is at a historical low at the moment, although it's been increased recently. This is an unprecedented interest rate environment around the world. You have, up until recently, you had in Japan and in Switzerland, you paid the bank money to deposit money. They have negative interest rates.
Wow.
So that's the fiasco we're in at the moment.
Wow.
And of course it affects pensions.
Yes.
It affects annuities. Annuities is what most people historically, traditionally bought for a pension. An annuity means an indefinite payment until death, and people used to take out their pension money and buy with it an annuity, and the annuity is based on a rate, and that rate determines how much you get, how much your monthly payment will be. So a simple calculation would be, if I've got £200,000 in my pension and I'd like to purchase an annuity with that £200,000, how much you get in payments for life will depend on the amount, so the £200,000, and the interest rate, the Bank of England interest rate. So when the interest rate is low, it affects the payments, but the payments will be lower as well. So that's why it says, it's not a saver's market. People are getting punished to save, especially in Japan and Switzerland, where if you save your money, you end up losing bits of it.
So they invest out of that, would they invest abroad?
Yeah, the reason is, not abroad, the reason is to get you to move into more risky assets. So they don't want people saving, because when they want to stimulate the economy, because they still haven't managed to fix the economy from 2008, and they want to get it stimulating. They want people spending or investing in stocks or risky assets, real estate, things like that. So that's why they set the interest rate so low, and to make it easy to borrow as well, because they want people to borrow and consume.
So they're going to load the customers up. What's happened in the last few years with PPI? You hear this all the time, and and you can go to this solicitor and get this money back, so it's missold in some particular way. Can you explain a little bit more to me about that?
I don't have that much knowledge on it, but I can say that it ties in with this short-term incentive that employees working in sales departments of banks operate with. So I can imagine that it was in a situation where you were encouraged to upsell. What upsell means is you sell a product and you try and upgrade it so that the customer pays more, or sell another product with it. So an insurance, a phone and phone insurance, or something like that. So I think salesmen were incentivized and being pressured
to sell that
with no
sort of guarantees or responsibility,
with no care. With no care to how that will affect their customer in the future. So I think once the transaction is done, the customer no longer exists in that person's mind. I mean, it must be like that, or else we're saying these people are evil. If they knowingly see that what they're doing is going to harm the customer and they still go through with it,
but they're pressurised to keep their job, they're pressurised with their targets. You do a good target in the month before, they uplift it by whatever percentage they want. Now you could do it even better this month. Well, that was a good month. No. That's what retail does all the time, is they look at the last year index and say, well, last year you made this on that particular day, so you're going to make that plus 10% because everything needs to be loaded.
And then I think with financial products and insurance products, the public is very misinformed and undereducated. So it becomes very easy to throw in some jargon words, make something sound more complicated than it is, use some sales skills and emotional manipulation to create fear, and then sell a PPI product
that's not fully supported, and then obviously the government's knew about it, found out about it, and people have found a loophole, and they're obviously trying to get their monies back. I mean, if you get a contract for a mobile phone, it's like 21 pages of a font minus 6 or something, and it's that, you're not going to read 21 pages. You're not anything to do with solicitors, so you're not going to understand some of the legalese that comes out of it. And you go, just tick the box here, go for it. But you signed for this, that means we can vary this. And go, what? But you signed for it. And I think
in Britain we're more specifically in England, we're very nice, we're very polite.
Wouldn't say boo to a goose, as they say.
We wouldn't want
that's
to
all right.
offend,
we don't know how to complain generally, because we won't. It's not part of our nature. But I feel a little bit like that. But sometimes, if something wrong, I will pursue it until there's a resolve, if I can get a resolve. And I think that's quite important for people to do. That standing up for their own rights, aren't they? And I think if you look at it in a logical way, like you've approached that market, then there is a way forward.
And I think it's very important that you bring up PPI, because it's a pattern. I don't think
it'll be something else.
It'll be something else.
Absolutely. It won't be PPI. It'll be DDI or whatever it happens to be. And it'll be some other assurance. And quite rightly, you said earlier on, no matter what product you buy, mobile phone, do you want the insurance? Do you want to buy white goods? Do you want the 3-year? And they do it to me automatically if I buy some. I just bought a replacement fridge freezer, and the fridge freezer, the cost of it, and they want to sell you this insurance, and if you evaluate the insurance over the 3 years, you paid for it. And the chances are that's going to last 2 years plus. So you're already spending it just in case. And there's always ways of not doing it, not paying it out.
Like a bird on a tree. I'm just sitting here. I got time. It's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful.